Chapter 16. Life continues in the camp. A day of waiting for a release had passed in despair. Everyone returned to the daily monotony of camp life with disheartened spirits. A long line of buckets waiting for water was once again formed along the main road. As usual, breakfast with thin congee and salt, lunch and dinner with a bowl of rice and pumpkin soup sprinkled with a few peanuts, resumed like every other day. However, no one lingered in the yard as they had the night before, either exhausted from waiting or overcome by sleepiness after staying up late. All the camp detainees went to bed earlier than usual. Early the next morning, Bay Soy, an officer with a bald head responsible for Block 3, entered the detention room and announced that after breakfast, everyone should prepare to go to the assembly hall. Suddenly, there was a spark of excitement and cheerfulness among the detainees, fueled by renewed hope. Some even skipped breakfast to line up early, as if eager to return home immediately. Unlike the solemn atmosphere during preparations for the lessons on the 10 political ideologies, the road to the assembly hall was now filled with lively chatter. There were no decorations in the assembly hall. Upon arrival, a few officers carried in a table and some chairs. Then High Khan, the chief warden, came to address the detainees. In his speech, High Khan reiterated what we had heard countless times. The party and the state's policy remains consistent. We punish those who run away, but not those who stay. Progress in re-education is the key to receiving the party and state's leniency. I wondered how they could punish those who had already fled. As for the end of the 1-month re-education program, High Khan explained that they had not received any directives from the central government regarding this. Returning to society depended on each individual's progress, not on a fixed timeline, because we had to learn to adapt to the new society. Before concluding his speech, High Khan announced that as a gesture of the party and state's leniency, the camp administration was allowing us to write letters to our families to inform them that we were doing well, making progress in re-education, and to encourage them to follow the party and state's policies. We were not permitted to reveal the camp's location, only the code 15NV as a return address. These developments deepened the detainees' despair. Those who had been optimistic suddenly realized the need to better understand the communists beyond what they merely said. For those who never believed they would be released after a month, this was at least an opportunity to get news of their families. Writing home was better than nothing. Even though we all knew we wouldn't be able to write everything we wanted, letters would undoubtedly be meticulously censored by the officers, but at least it was a chance to connect with our loved ones. For me, the most pressing questions were whether my child was a boy or a girl, and how my wife was doing after childbirth. I also wanted to ask about my mother and grandmother. With only 2 pages allowed per letter, how could I address everyone in the family? First, I thought I must cleverly phrase my words to convey my situation in the camp. I would write that everything was fine, I was well fed, and I even grew some sweet potato plants to supplement our meals. I would say I was in good health, so much so that I shared medicine with friends when they fell ill. Of course, I would inquire about the gender of my child. After checking on my mother and grandmother, I would include some obligatory lines encouraging my family to adhere to the local government's policies to help me in the camp, as this might hasten my release. That alone would consume half a page. As I walked back to the room from the assembly hall, lost in thought about what to include in the letter, I noticed the silence around me. It was a stark contrast to the lively atmosphere earlier that morning. Everyone seemed to be reflecting on their fate and the cunning tactics of the communists. The notice about re-education had stated only that we should bring food and clothing for 1 month. It never explicitly mentioned that the re-education period would last just 1 month. We couldn't accuse them of deception. It was we who had misunderstood the announcement. You'll be home in a month or a year. Or how many more years? That line from Deep's poem sent chills down my spine. How much longer would I remain here? My life had essentially ended on April 30th. But what about my family? I didn't want them waiting for me in despair. Nothing was more painful than separation by life and death. Writing letters became the main focus for detainees in the following days. Some rewrote their letters repeatedly, unable to be satisfied, resigned to their fate. People answered questions about their release with shrugs and headshakes. Tea, coffee, cigarettes, and idle chatter were no longer part of the routine. More detainees began planting sweet potatoes in the remaining patches of land. Water from the pits near the bathrooms grew scarcer, so I watered the vegetables and let the sweet potatoes grow as they would. Thankfully, the July rains in Vietnam eased some of the burden. Bay Soy and 2 Deep collected letters daily. Yet even a week later, some detainees had not finished writing. Time no longer seemed to matter. I had sent my letter early, hoping for a reply sooner, but sometimes I regretted not including more. 2 weeks after sending our letters, we received replies. On a Saturday, Bay Soy and 2 Deep came to Block 3 to distribute mail. My letter came from my wife, mother, and grandmother. Inside was a photo of my wife holding our 1-month-old son. My wife wrote about how our son often cried at night, leaving her exhausted. The family adored him as the first grandchild. He had weighed about 3 kilograms at birth, not large, but enough to make childbirth difficult for her. My wife encouraged me to study hard, so I could return to help care for our son. My mother and grandmother also wrote brief notes, saying they were in good health and the tailoring business was still running. Because my father had been a martyr, my mother had become the neighborhood leader. Some of my father's comrades had visited and expressed hope that I would be released soon, as I came from a family with revolutionary contributions. Their words echoed what High Khan had said at the assembly hall. Reading the letter repeatedly, I practically memorized every word. The photo of my wife and son was framed in a simple frame I made from brown wood with a mica cover. That frame followed me through nearly 17 years in the re-education camps.